Your employees are your greatest asset, so why not give them benefits that show it? From health insurance to voluntary benefits to retirement plans, GTM helps Capital Region businesses build benefits packages that attract and retain top talent. We work with major local carriers and provide practical tools to automate open enrollment and benefits administration. Get a free consultation at gtminsurance.com to learn more. Welcome to Capital Connect, a GTM podcast featuring the business leaders shaping the Capital Region and making an impact on our future. Conversations about growth, culture, and what it really takes to build something special in our region. And now here's your host, Quito Delgado.
Welcome back to Capital Connect. I'm your host, Quito Delgado, business sales manager here at GTM. And today it is my honor to connect with Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today. For people who are meeting you for the very first time,
yes.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
So Jennifer Lawrence, and I am the founder and CEO of Social Enterprise and Training Center. But really, just here to talk about what's happening and talk about life and to have a great chat with you today.
Absolutely. So that stands for the Seat Center.
Yes, Seat Center.
Just celebrated its 10-year anniversary, and
yes.
we will get into that a little bit. But before we get to the business side and the great work you are doing on workforce development, what's your origin story? Where are you born and raised? Where'd you go to school? Let's start there.
I am tried and true, born, raised, and live in Schenectady, New York.
Nice.
I'm proud of it. So grew up in Schenectady, went to Schenectady Christian School for a good part from 4th grade to 12th grade. So I have this unique experience of graduating with a class of 18. Stayed and had some tragedy. My father unexpectedly passed away when he was in front of me when he was 39 years old. So that was like a huge tragedy. So I ended up staying local. Never was that kid who thought like so many young people, you think you're going to graduate high school and go away to college. So I stayed and went to SUNY Schenectady. And then went to Siena College and then commuted from here, from the Capital Region to Fordham University in New York City and finished my master's degree there.
Great. So you drove. So talk about
Crazy.
Grind. I mean, getting up, drive. How often were you making that drive?
About twice a week. Yeah.
Twice a week.
So I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, oh yeah, and it was great. Fordham was great. And, but yeah, now when I look back on it, people were like, yeah.
Like, what was I thinking?
What I was thinking.
But I'm sure you must have been doing a whole lot of thinking. Like, what was the benefit? Would you say was there a benefit of that commute? Like, because obviously we had a lot of time.
I met some great classmates who lived. I met people who lived in Kingston and Newburgh, and we ended up carpooling together. I liked Fordham, one because I could finish my master's in a year, so I was really ready to be done at that time, and so I was really motivated to get it done with. But yeah, so I actually have never physically. I've been here, been here, lived here.
I love it.
And didn't choose to start.
Well, just so you know, you're already on top of my list because I'm Schenectady native, born and raised, Central Park Elementary School. Howe Elementary School.
Oh, yes.
I went to Central Park for a year.
School, yeah.
Ordained Bishop Gibbons.
Oh, yeah.
My graduation class, so we had 64.
Oh, that's good.
64 kids.
That was great. It was a big class for, yes. I always said you had to like everybody. You learned early on in life.
You had to tolerate.
You had to tolerate. There was no chance in the class that small to not be friends with everyone, which taught me a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So you graduated. What was the first job you had out of college?
Yeah, so first job out of college, I worked at a health food store. I always say, actually, I tell my first job story because, let me back that up. I talk about my first jobs because what I do for work is first job. So my first job out of college, I was a social worker in a group home. But when you think back to first jobs, like as a teenager, you learn a lot about what you're not good at when you're young. So I remember those first jobs, in high school, in college, in the hospitality industry and offices, and you learn a lot about yourself. And so I've taken a lot of those first job experiences to what I do now. But out of college, I was a social worker in a group home. And what I realized is that, because I had experience being a job coach prior to that when I was working in college, that, mostly what young people wanted, they wanted opportunity, and they were willing to work on other things if they had a job and income.
Mm.
So, yeah.
So when was the aha moment to start launch the Seat Center?
So the aha moment, I actually have a moment that I remember. I was driving to work. I'd always been in workforce development. So I was saying I graduated college. I early on understood the need for young people to be connected to jobs, because that really was key to everything else. It reduces crime, reduces poverty, increases confidence, leadership, changes community. So I realized those connections early on. I started a youth build program in 2006. Northeast Parent and Child Society asked me to join their team and start a new department and start youth build. And I remember driving to work. I had been promoted a few times. I was a vice president at the time, and I just knew there was more to do. And when there's something inside you where you have to do something, if like you hear like entrepreneurs talk about this, you just like have to do it. It just like you drive to work, and it just something that makes you, so it was one of those moments driving to work and saying, there's more that I have to do. And then just asking a lot of questions, talking to people, having a lot of people who I never met, but people connected me to and really just encouraged me or gave us support and helped us along the way to where we are now. It's an interesting story.
Yeah. So what would be the advice you would give to somebody who maybe on the way into work today, or at some point where they have a side hustle, or they have an idea that they think a lot about, and they just haven't decided to go all in on it? What bit of advice would you give them to kind of help them get started and begin the process?
I think do your research and find people who get all sides. I always talk about it as multiple inputs. Get multiple inputs, even if it's not the information you want. Sometimes we seek out the people we want to hear from, but it's like seek out all perspectives. Some people told me it was the worst idea ever. Some people told me it was needed. I really did research, asked a lot of questions of the right people, decided who are the right people to ask questions to get a diverse amount of ideas or diverse amount of perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the day, you really have to make your own decision. That's the hardest part. There's nobody that can tell you. You have to really have good intuition and make your own decision. And then I always talk about, Steve Harvey has this great talk about taking the leap.
I think I've seen it, but
it's so good. And it's like at some point after you do the research, you just have to take the leap.
You got to jump.
You got to jump. Yeah.
So for listeners unfamiliar with the Seat Center, why don't you give us its elevator pitch?
Yeah. So Seat Center really exists to connect young people 18 and up who are disconnected from opportunity to all the economic opportunity in our region. So we know that there's companies moving here. There's a workforce shortage. We know about, we hear all the time about how companies need entry-level workers, or they're looking to grow their companies with workers. But many young people, actually thousands of young people 18 and up who live in this region, don't feel like that opportunity is for them. They live in neighborhoods, have had experiences with our educational system or other systems, or just have had life circumstances where that opportunity, they're not connected to it. They don't know how to connect to it. And the research shows that, training and access and connection are what help people enter the workforce. So we're here to bridge that gap and to just really showcase the talent of young people. Once someone meets one of our students, they speak for themselves. It's just our opportunity to be a connector.
so it's the bridge.
The bridge.
You open the door,
Yeah.
give them the guidance, but then I think it's twofold. Like, yes, you give them the opportunity, but then it's up to them,
It's up to
the students, to do the work. And obviously, you guys are providing them with great structure and support to do so.
Yes.
I get the sense in meeting with you a few times, like you could kind of probably choose any line of work, and I say this, hopefully you don't be, you don't you're not embarrassing me to say this. I feel like you would be very good at pretty much anything you want to put your mind to. So why workforce development? What about this line of work?
Yeah, that's a great question. Then I have two answers. So one, I remember visiting Harlem and seeing all the redevelopment there. And at the time, Reverend Calvin Butts, who was in charge, he was Abyssinian Development Corporation, Abyssinian Baptist Church, and he said the best social program is a job. And so I realized that in things I had interest in, that the job connected all of those other things. The job is what was central to so much community change. And that was a big interest of mine. It's something that I wanted to see. And I really have been fascinated by the intersection of business and community. So I went to school for social work, went back for my MBA. It was always like that. These are two worlds that don't come together enough. And we absolutely need them to come together to see change. So I think that's why I just have really found that interesting. And I get to, even when you talked about like, no matter what I got into, I get to be into a lot of things, because workforce development is really about what are the needs of our region. So we now build affordable housing and teach our students the trades through building housing. We opened a restaurant with our operating agreement with Hattie's Restaurant. So it gives me a chance to be involved with a lot of industries and continuously learning.
Talk to me about some of the early challenges of getting this off the ground. We see you now, right? You have all these different partnerships. I think we were talking 20 employees, give or take, or
we're up to like 30, over 30.
30. My bad.
Yeah,
Put some respect on 30 employees. What were some of those early challenges that you had to overcome? And at any point in time, did you ever think, I don't know, I mean, I believe in myself, but this isn't getting, we're not having as much success as I thought we might have. Did that ever happen?
Yeah, I was very worried about getting through year 1 and then getting through year 5, because everyone talks about, how many businesses fail in the first year. And then, well, you made it through the first year, but now can you keep making it? So there was all of those, and the stats are real. Early on, we said yes to everything. We said yes to everything, good, bad, or bad. We just, we had to, I would say, but then I think there became a time, around year 5 where then it was like, okay, we now have to flip, and what do we say no to? So it's like knowing when to say yes and knowing when to say no. Yeah.
If someone were looked at seat today versus when you first started, what's something that was surprising about your organization that you guys all do in the community? In other words, like, people think workforce development and they may have a limited scope of what that looks like. Yeah. So
it's a great question. I think there's so much behind the scenes that people don't see. And I think the biggest things are that you can train. If training alone could solve the problem, it would be solvable, because you could just have a training and people could come, and then, so it's not a training problem. And so what people don't see are the staff that help students wash their clothes at night, are helping students who are being evicted from unsafe apartments. So, you may be in an apartment that's unsafe, so you're forced to leave because of health codes. So staff are taking students Christmas Eve and we're rehousing people in hotels so that they can get back to work the next day. Staff who've helped even take someone's pets. So that's, so all of the things that happen that prevent people from working or keeping a job or getting a job. And it's things like laundry, driving, childcare, where you're living. Yeah.
And I'm going to try to stay off my soapbox, because this is something that irks me a little bit, but I'm going to let you're the expert here. So I'm going to let you kind of maybe make the case. But there's this whole notion, some people are lazy. Some people, they don't want to work. And I think people who say that um, oftentimes just lack empathy and or just lack just experiences. They just don't understand what it's like to take 3 different buses
Yes.
or the different things. So this is your opportunity to speak, not to say you're the mouthpiece, but speak on behalf of for employers out there in particular who, have employees. Let's help them develop a little bit more compassion, empathy, for making sure that they are being better caretakers of their employees.
Yes. So that's a great question. I love talking about this question. So I always say young people do want to work. I'll give you 2 perspectives. We had a company who called us. They needed 50 employees. They said that we've called everywhere. We to source employees. They called us on a Wednesday at 2 p.m. They needed 50 people by Monday. And there wasn't a lot of time. And Monday was a holiday. They were opening their business on a holiday. So we shifted our operations and reached out to our alumni and students in our network, and we put the call out, and we shifted our staff to work on this project. And by Friday, we had 38 applications into the company. They hired everyone and started their operations primarily with people, either graduates or students from Seed Center. I say that to say because young people do want to work, but what they want is real opportunity, and they want someone who cares about them and that they don't feel like a number. And I challenge the employer community because I think about to think about their own experiences. So like when we've had first jobs, if you think of your first jobs, when your car broke down, who helped you? Who helped you when you didn't have gas money? Who helped you figure out what you should wear to work, whether it was a parent, a grandparent, an uncle, your boss. So a lot of times people who hire first jobs are someone that our family knows. So to develop compassion and empathy, what we look at Seed Center as these are our kids. These are our young people, and we just are doing the same thing that any young person needs because we've all had multiple chances. Nobody's gotten it right on the first time. I got fired and didn't even know it. So my dad got me my first job at 15 in a banquet, working at a banquet set house in locally. It's not open anymore. And I broke the tallest stack of dishes. I had it in a tray. They had me wheeling a cart with all these dishes, and I broke them all. And I remember, I just never got asked back. And I was like, oh, I think I got fired. Years later, I thought about it. My dad probably just didn't tell me. I'm sure I just got fired. And they were like, she's clumsy. She's not going to get it. But I think, and then I worked at the insurance agency that my mom worked at. I think if we think about first jobs and how people get those first jobs and how many chances we've all had, that's what every young person needs.
Your company culture shapes everything. How people work, whether they stay, and how your business grows. Led by an experienced consultant, GTM's Cultural Review Service gives you an honest, outside perspective on what's working and what isn't. Because a strong culture doesn't just happen, it's built. Visit gtm.com/business to learn more.
So let's shift a little bit to, obviously, on one hand, you are helping develop the next generation of employees, of workforce by, with these placements and training them. But then you're also responsible as a leader for the care, the well-being of your own employees. Right. So how do you balance being a leader, but then also doing mission-driven work? Because I think sometimes we're doing great mission, but I'm sure at times you gotta get really tough and firm. Yes. How do you balance that?
It's tough. It's tough. I think we're fortunate that what binds us as a team internally is the mission. So that is something I feel we're very fortunate about. But just like in any company, you have a variety of, you have all of the human resource, all the issues that come with working with people. Because if people come with, there's a certain amount of unpredictability. So you can have the best model in the world, but who are the people there that are helping make that model come to life? And it's it's what keeps it unpredictable and keeps us on our toes as leaders.
What would you say is the biggest challenge you face as an employer currently? Do you have anything in particular where you're like,
That's a good question. I mean, I think with growth, it's really helping. We have employees who are 6 months with us to 10 years with us. So how we're not necessarily managing generations of employees, but employees we've iterated and grown so many times, and helping everyone come along on that journey to who we are now and what we need to be in the future. That is interesting, because we have people who came when we were a startup and love that startup culture. We have people who came, halfway through, and now, we're really working on formalizing systems and keeping that individuality that everyone had, but then also having uniformity as an organization.
So how intentional are you? Because you said you're mission driven. So as you're recruiting, as you're trying to bring people into the fold, how intentional are you about protecting your culture at the Seed Center?
It's like number one. Protecting culture is number one, and it's you can hire for a lot of things, but values are something that you have to come with a value set. It's hard to train. Sorry, you can train for a lot of things, but values is something that I realize that you have to really come aligned. And then the training can come after that for the technical pieces.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have the right value set, it's kind of hard to although I think sometimes organizations look for, and especially if you're hiring out of need, desperation. Oh, this spot's been open for 6 months, and they're showing you who they are throughout the interview process, but you ignore that because we need to see, and now they could end up infecting.
Correct.
Everyone.
Correct. Yeah.
So part of what you do, I mean, I think the buzz, I shouldn't say buzzword, but the term often used to describe, the type of entrepreneur you are is social entrepreneur.
Yes.
I think anytime I'm in a room with you and that gets brought up, social entrepreneur.
Yes.
Can you define what that is? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so it means to me that it is an entrepreneur who's started as company or organization for social good, and that has social give back and social impact. And so there's a variety. You have everything from a for-profit company that has a social impact to which we are a nonprofit company that has a social impact as its main goal.
So you just mentioned a nonprofit.
Okay.
What do you think your traditional nonprofits can learn from a for-profit business, but then also vice versa? What can for-profits learn from the nonprofit space?
That's a great question. So
I'm trying.
That's great. Wow. Yeah, these are great. I'm glad that we're here in the afternoon, not in the morning. So, what nonprofits can learn from for-profits, and what for-profits can learn from nonprofits. I think that if we could all I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think that sometimes, I think for-profits, my question would be, what are you measuring? And is revenue and profit your only measuring stick? Like, what is your metric, and what are you measuring if you are a for-profit? For nonprofits, I would ask the same question. Sometimes in nonprofit world, we can measure impact and show impact, but revenue doesn't match the impact. Where in the for-profit world, if you measure revenue, you're successful if you make more money. The more revenue and profit you make, the more it's equated with success. In the nonprofit world, revenue does not equal success. And so how we're judging each other doesn't really show who we really are. So I would just ask that we all look at what does success really mean, and how do we almost like reward it, or how do we judge and compensate others?
I think at times it's interesting, like, because I work in this space where, I'm talking to the CEO, or one of our sales reps was talking to the CEO, the president of a for-profit, but then we're meeting with an executive director of a nonprofit. And it blows my mind at times where it's like, just because you're a nonprofit doesn't mean you can't. I mean, you can be mission aligned, but also understand, like, okay, in order to do the work to carry out the mission, we do need to generate revenue. And on the flip side, the for-profit companies, they put profit, and they lose sight of the mission, and they may not connect the employees to the work. And now you have this revolving door of talent coming and going. They can't attract because they've lost sight of the mission. So it is interesting. I think, if I had to give my answer, I think nonprofits, you can be mission generated, but you can still focus on revenue.
Yes.
On the flip side, for profit, or for for-profit businesses, you can focus on revenue, but don't lose sight of the core. Don't lose sight of why you got in the business to begin with.
Right.
So
right. Yeah.
Hiring, right?
Yes.
Finding talent, attracting them, keeping them. Obviously, you have some experience in this. What are employers getting wrong about hiring, do you think, nowadays?
The 40-hour work week.
Explain.
It's tough too, because so we work with young people 18 and up, mostly 18 to 28. And so some of what we do is first jobs, but a lot of the other work we do is first careers. So we're training in heating and cooling and hospitality, and people are entering in construction, and people are entering their first career. And I think a lot of the hiring managers, and it's changing, but a lot of mandatory overtime, a lot of 12-hour shifts, where you're working 3-4 days, 12 hours a day for 3 or 4 days, and then you get, days off. And so these block shift schedules, and the young people we're talking to mandatory overtime is not attractive to them, or just overtime in general. Like, oh, you can get overtime. What is attractive is a 30-hour work week, or a 40-hour work week where there is not mandatory overtime, or 2 20-hour shifts where we've asked employers, would you consider breaking this job up to 2? We think this job would be a great part-time job for someone, but maybe somebody's not ready for the full-time job. And really, so that's a big piece, the work week, and maybe job carving, or breaking the job up to be less than 40 hours or not going over 40 hours. And then people ask me why. I'm just the messenger. But people have, we're seeing young people who there are side hustles now. There's gig work. So I think where people needed that 40-hour a week job, we do see people who want 30 hours, 20 hours, and then they're doing other things to supplement their income. That's different.
And I can even speak to this a little bit just because I'm going through it. You also have the sandwich.
Yes.
Group, right?
Yes.
So those, you sip a glass of water. I'll explain for those watching. The sandwich generation is when you have a child or children that you're raising, but then you also have parents who, fortunately, are still with us, and where you're doing a lot of the caregiving, the helping, the arranging with them. Yes. So you're managing mom and dad, and child or children, and those schedules. So that's really important for employers to understand. Like,
yes,
they need that flexibility, particularly around scheduling.
Yes, scheduling, daycare, a lot of people, like, you need daycare before the daycare, because some daycares don't open, and the time that aligns with work schedules. So we see a lot of young people who want that full-time job, and they're going into that 40-hour job. They don't necessarily want the overtime. So I think it's important to know who wants overtime and who doesn't. Some people who the 12-hour shift is just doesn't work for them.
I can't imagine.
I know.
12. I mean, that's just
happening a lot of manufacturing, and it's right. And people, you have to develop a certain fortitude. You have to like build up to that. So that could it's just a lot for some people to start out. And then we're seeing other places where it just would be easy. It depends on the job, where I say, hey, could this be like 2 part-time jobs? But yeah, yeah.
So you've built, the C Center right here in Schenectady. You mentioned before you never left, but why here? You could eventually have taken this a lot of different places, but why did you decide? You know what? I'm gonna really lock in here on the Capital Region.
The Capital Region is a unique place because you can really see the change. Um, we have a unique opportunity that we're big enough to make an impact, but we're small enough to see the change. We can see the change in blocks and neighborhoods, in generations. We have students now who I had their parents, which is hard to believe, but it's true. And it's a lot of fun. But I do believe that we will move it. Right now we're in Albany County, in the city of Albany. And I do believe that we'll be able to develop a model that can be replicated in other cities.
Where do you think, the Capital Region, I know we can sing its praises, but where do you think we may, fall short when it comes to workforce development and economic mobility? And then the part 2 would be like, what role can local businesses play in improving that?
I think this is a situation that we're seeing in other parts of the country too, but the definition of entry level is rising. So with minimum wage rising, is it really an entry level job? How do we create more access points for young people in our community?
That's interesting you say, because part of what we do, I think you know this, we do HR work support for organizations. So like our HR team members may work with a client and say, let's look at your job descriptions and make sure it's inclusive, and you're not eliminating top talent by saying, oh, college degree required, master's degree required. But we're looking at this. So I'm more of like the middle person. I get it and then pass it to the experts. But we're looking at these job descriptions. I'm like, hold up, you want them to do this, have these credentials, and then but it's entry level. It's entry level pay, but not entry level work.
Correct.
So I think that is a big mistake that a lot of organizations are making. I don't think it's intentional, but we gotta redefine what entry level is and is not. Collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's possible for you to do the work
not at all
that you're doing. I got you. I'm gonna fill the time while you sip the water. But I don't think it's possible for the C Center to have the amazing run and the impact it's had over the last 10 years. Congratulations, by the way. I went to the party. I had the celebration. I had a really good time.
Thank you.
But see, now I just lost my train of thought. But you want to have the success you had without collaboration.
Absolutely.
Can you speak to this, why that's so important? Not just for the work you do, but for everything.
I read something recently that, like, the fallacy of independence. Like, we think that we need to be independent when really we need to be interdependent. Once we realize that we all need each other and we're created to live with each other, none of us have the answer by ourselves, in and of ourselves. We need others to make it all happen. So collaboration, it's woven into what we do. Our whole model is based on partnerships, collaboration, and like-minded, aligned companies and individuals. So an example of that is, part of our model is whatever students do in the classroom, they do hands-on the same week. And so time and time again, when we've talked to industry partners and said, hey, we're training in construction, we need to work with industry partners to give them hands-on work experience, people have stepped up, because what people say to me, they go, oh, it makes sense. I wish I had that. I wish I didn't go through high school and college and never have hands-on work experience until I graduated or until my senior year. So I think it makes sense to people, and they're willing to do that. We're fortunate in heating and cooling, Crisafulli Brothers, CA Group, Suburban Services. Grasshopper, many different companies have signed on and said, we'll do the hands-on. Christofoli Brothers also does all of the training with our students. So MLB construction, in the film industry, we train in film and audio engineering because of the governor's tax credit program with Armory Studios. So in each place, there's been people who stepped up and said, no, we get it. We'll be in this work with you. And then hosts of partners who, whether it's funding partners or services or mentoring, truly takes everyone, really takes all of us.
So as I mentioned, 10 years success. What are your goals for the next 10 years? We look up 10 years from now, where do you hope Seat to be?
The biggest goal for the next 10 years is that it has a whole life beyond me. It would just be an experiment if it just gets to this point. So I want to, I think the biggest goal is that it can live on its own. It has, I want to write a lot more. Maybe it doesn't sound exciting, like interesting, but like manuals and staff development. I'm really interested in like leadership development for our internal team and for other organizations like ours. And then the ability for it to have a life.
To want to scale.
To scale, yes.
I think I've met with a lot of different business owners, leaders, where, at some point, like it's, if it can't sustain itself
Correct.
Without you, if you have to kind of be in the middle of it all, then all you really have done is create yourself a job versus a business. So how are you going about doing that? I mean, you don't have to. Have you thought about your strategy?
Every day. There's a great book, E-Myth Revisited. A lot of people have read that. That's a good book about this topic, and there's a few others. We have a great group of emerging leaders and leaders that have joined our team, and so it's really pouring into them. And I think it's going to take a different approach, and just really like there's so many things we do that need to be documented or training produced on it so that it can have a legacy. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I've enjoyed this conversation. I could honestly ask you probably another 50 questions if I wanted to, but I know you're really busy, growing and, Seat. So I'll leave you with this though. I'll ask you, if people want to connect with you, with the Seat Center, how can they do so?
Connecting with us, our website is www.seatcenter.org. You can connect through our website, volunteering, talking to students, tours of your company. There's a host of ways to connect. You could always connect through dining at our restaurant, Hattie's Culinary Lab on 121 Madison Avenue in Albany. We're open for dinner Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Lunch on Wednesday, so it's always a great way to connect.
Guys ever want to come to the Niskayuna area?
We would love it. We would love it. Yeah.
There's actually a spot in we'll talk offline.
Yeah.
There's a good spot that you ever hear of those places that they have like almost like a cafeteria.
Like the Galleria?
Yeah.
There's like
12, 15 different.
Yes. That would be a good spot for it.
See that?
We have a great chicken sandwich. Great chicken.
Yes.
I always joke that now whenever I go places, people want to talk to me about the chicken. Like all this other stuff, they're like, yeah, that's great, Jen, but I
think it's important to go to the seatcenter.org.
Yes.
There's really so many things that, you can learn. I learned a lot just in preparing for the interview. I was like, wow, they do a whole lot even more than I was aware of. That one final question. Who should we interview next on the podcast? With the one caveat being, you have to help connect us and get them on the show.
Absolutely. I would, there's so many great leaders. There's so many people we work with that make this work happen. I would love to have you interview Andrea Christofoli, who's been, I think it would be an awesome interview.
She does great work.
Yes.
And you already mentioned her earlier.
And I mentioned her. Yeah, I would be happy to do that.
All right. So there you go. You got to connect us.
Yes.
Hopefully we get her on the podcast. But Jennifer, on behalf of GTM, we just want to thank you for for your time today, but also just the amazing work that you're doing to elevate the Capital Region. So thank you so much for your time.
Kato. Thanks so much.
Tracking employee time shouldn't eat up yours. GTM's time and labor management tools are connected directly to payroll automatically. Make scheduling, attendance, and overtime tracking simple and accurate. Visit gtm.com/business for less hassle, fewer errors, and a happier team. That's a wrap on this edition of Capital Connect. Thanks for listening and for supporting the businesses and leaders that make the Capital Region such a great place to work and thrive. Support for Capital Connect comes from GTM Payroll and HR, helping businesses streamline their operations with leading workforce solutions technology and local dedicated support so you can get back to what you do best. Learn more about payroll, HR, and insurance solutions at gtm.com/business. We release new episodes every week, so subscribe to the podcast to catch our next episode. We'll see you next time.